Well, welcome back, relatives. I'm Jeff and my brother JR here. We got some news for you today. Is the food shortage real? And why isn't the mainstream actually talking about it? JR, bring that back up to you.
Well, actually, we found mainstream speaking about it, but we have found others speaking as well. And that's what we got in store for you today. So hold on.
Nothing more to report. With regard to food shortage, yes, we did talk about food shortages. And it's going to be real. The price of these sanctions is not just imposed upon Russia. It's imposed upon an awful lot of countries as well, including European countries and our country as well. Nothing more to report.
Well, American food producers, grocers, and customers feeling the impact of the war in Ukraine as they brace for substantial price hikes. Nate Foy live for us in the New York City newsroom with more on this. Nate, good morning.
Trace, good morning to you. Ukraine and Russia are two of the world's leading grain exporters, but the war will threaten the supply that they provide. And of course, this comes as Americans are already paying more for food because of inflation and supply chain issues.
American shoppers should expect that unfortunately their grocery bills are going to go up.
Rob Mackey is the president and CEO of the American Bakers Association. He says bread makers across the country are feeling the pressure from the war in Ukraine. And the longer the conflict goes on, the more it will affect the global food supply system.
If you take essentially one of the top wheat-growing regions out of production for a year, that's going to have a ripple effect, substantial ripple effect.
Known as Europe's breadbasket, Ukraine, along with Russia, are two of the world's 5 leading exporters of wheat. Together, they produce 25% of the global supply.
And unfortunately, this is going to impact the most vulnerable in our society, many of whom are still feeling the impacts of the pandemic.
We're looking every day at inflation almost reaching 10%.
Dan Veroni is a supply chain expert and founder of Potomac Core. He says that rising costs for energy and other raw materials, such as seed oils, will put the squeeze on consumer cost.
It's energy costs that are going to choke consumers at every level. As food companies need to stay competitive.
A recent report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics says that consumer food prices have risen nearly 8% since February 2021.
Food markets are globalized, so to a certain extent, it's impossible to avoid the impacts of disruptions like this.
Caitlin Welsh is a food policy expert at the Center for Strategic International Studies. Though other countries face direct threats to their food supplies due to the war, she says Americans are not totally insulated from the impact.
I do think that this is going to continue to put more upward pressure for a longer amount of time on prices in the U.S. than if we didn't have this war. It's through increase in prices of these inputs that you see farmers are going to have to pay a lot more to produce, and then consumers are going to have to pay a lot more to buy this food.
Again, last month, U.S. food prices up 7.9% compared to last year, but the war may cause prices to go up even more. Back to you.
Yeah, Nate Foy live for us in New York. Nate, thank you.
Well, if you listen to what they said on this video, they said that Russia and Ukraine, that's 25%. They had 4 people up there, Canada, United States, Russia, and Ukraine. And Ukraine and Russia create 25% of the wheat for the world. So if they're at war, they're not producing wheat. That's 25% of the process of, or the production of wheat just because of this war that we lose. Just start with that. And then when you go with what else we have to give you, then you're going to start wondering, okay, wow. Okay, well, let's start with this. How real is this food shortage? That's the question we asked after we came to this conclusion. How real, Jeff?
It's really real. And it started all the way back with the FDA and the baby formula.
Oops. All right, if you'll go to this understanding of what's being read here, FDA reveals details about what went wrong with baby formula linked to infant deaths. Baby formula maker Abbott failed to maintain sanitary conditions and procedures at a Michigan manufacturing plant recently linked to a cluster of infant illnesses, according to a finding released Tuesday by the federal safety inspectors. Due to a rare bacteria infection, 2 deaths were caused and several infants were hospitalized. Abbott didn't maintain clean surfaces used in producing and handling powdered formula, according to the FDA. So what happened to this guy is his business he had a roof leaking, he had water on the floor, according to the report, and the next thing you know, he's got a crack in his pipe, bacteria is entering the pipe, and he shuts the plant down. Now, that doesn't sound like a big deal, except for the fact of what happened. Okay, well, how does we get into this mess? Well, it comes down to right here. That plant reportedly supplied as much as 1/5 of all the infant formula in the country. But the problem's bigger than that. This episode highlights how highly concentrated the formula industry is, thanks in part to government policies and the risks that can result. And here's what to know about how the U.S. got into its infant formula mess. The infant formula industry is a multi-billion-dollar business dominated by a handful of firms. In the U.S., just 4 companies control about 90% of the market, including Abbott Nutrition, the firm behind the shuttered Michigan plant. These companies operate a relatively small number of formula factories in order to maximize efficiency and keep their production costs low. They're concentrating production in a few very large plants, but that causes a lot of risk, says Claire Kellaway of the Open Markets Institute, an anti-monopoly think tank. A large part of the crisis we're seeing now is from the closure of one plant. And that is what leads us to our topic of if one plant closing can cause serious problems with our food for our babies. Mamas were distressed because of food for our babies. So we're looking at that to start with, and one plant can shut down the process of feeding our infants. So let's look at what else we have. How bad will the food shortage get? Well, look in front of you. Look at this picture. Decimation, dry ground. There's nothing growing there. Whatever grew, all of a sudden didn't have the nourishment it needs. So that's what's going on around the world that's happening outside of the United States. But how bad will it get, Jeff? Scan down. Okay. 2 years ago, in May of 2020, this person who wrote this article predicted that the COVID-19 pandemic would be followed by famine, thanks to the intentional shutdown of businesses and global supply lines. Depending on where you live, you're now starting to see shortages to a greater or lesser degree, but regardless of how things appear right now, expect changes, potential drastic ones, over the coming months and into 2023, because that's when the diminished yields from this current growing season will become apparent. Really? Well, let's just see about that. So in 2017, this article was written, and it says, world could run out of food in 10 years. The world could be facing food shortages sooner than we think. In fact, one expert believes that we could be running out as soon as, according to Quartz, Ms. Menker believes that the year 2023 will be the crossover point when we no longer be able to produce enough food. Next page, there you go. So,
UN food director predicted hell on earth, food shortage in 2023. Well, didn't we just talk about that in the last page there, JR?
Yes, I kind of think I just heard that. Hell on earth.
Yeah.
And what does he say? What does he use? UN food chief David Beasley has issued a dire prediction for the world next year, 2023. Warning, we are facing a perfect storm on top of a perfect storm, and we are set to face hell on earth food shortages in 2023. Action must be taken now at the executive level as well as the individual level. So,
individual, that is you. Start growing your food.
Start growing your food. Start getting your water. Start storing as much as you can. Stockpile.
Don't forget about your shampoo and your toothpaste too. Buy at least a year's worth. Figure out what you need for a year for food, for your soap and your shampoo. And then worry about your small collective with your food intake.
Now, this next screen is actually quite interesting if you look at it. The New York Post: food shortages could be just as deadly as the global pandemic. We just read in the previous one that it's a perfect storm on top of a perfect storm. So it's kind of hard to say. Okay, scan down. A leading global health figure has warned the next worldwide crisis could come in the form of food shortages as the price of basic supplies skyrockets in even the wealthiest of nations. Peter Sands, who is the executive director of Global Funds to Fight AIDS, Tuberculosis, and Malaria, believes a food shortage could be just as deadly as an airborne pandemic if authorities fail to prepare. So I think it's time that we start looking at this like it's maybe something pretty serious. Close that picture. Let's close right there. Okay, here we go. What does that say, Jeff?
Control the food, control the people, bud.
Control the food, control the people. Henry Kissinger famously said, who controls the food supply controls the people. Who controls the energy can control the whole continents. Who controls money can control the world. History shows us that this is true, especially when it comes to controlling food.
We're going to explain that to you here a little bit more.
Time and time again, famines are man-made, just so you heard me 3 times. Famines are man-made and the result of political agendas. Now, what agendas?
What agendas? Well, let's just take a look at the agendas. Here we go. Agenda 21 for dummies. Not to call you a dummy. You probably have heard about it.
Sustainable development has become the popularized expression for Agenda 21. Agenda 21 is the 1992 United Nations Rio Declaration on the Environment and Development.
It is the agenda for the 21st century you're living in today. For a brave new world where everything that you cherished and held true will no longer exist.
Agenda 21 defines itself as the comprehensive plan of action to be taken globally, nationally, and locally by organizations of the United Nations systems.
It also elevates nature above man. And it contains something called the precautionary principle, where basically you're guilty until you're proven innocent.
Sustainable development is the philosophy designed to bring human beings across the globe under the full control of a narrow human elite.
It's a 40-chapter document to basically control the world. It's based entirely on socialist control mechanisms.
Sustainable developers have designed a global movement coordinated through a global to local action plan to create world government in accordance with certain objectives. These objectives include an end to national sovereignty, the abolition of private property, the restructure of the family unit, and increasing limitations and restrictions on mobility and individual opportunity.
The green goal includes the listings of what's not sustainable. A couple of the examples include private property.
Not sustainable.
Fossil fuels.
Golf courses and ski lodges are not.
Consumerism.
Irrigation is not sustainable.
What?
Paved roads.
Commercial agriculture.
What?
Herbicides, pesticides. Elsewhere, it lists farmlands, pastures, grazing of livestock.
And the family unit.
Are you listening?
The focus of sustainable development is the abolition of private property, societal undermining of the family, and abandonment of the constitutional protection of unalienable rights as described in the Declaration of Independence. You see, I sat on the Santa Cruz Agenda 21 committees. Now, this was a lot of crazy ideas. This was back in the mid-90s. Crazy ideas I heard. Mother Earth's surface wasn't to be scratched. Human beings were to be concentrated into human settlement zones.
All this is happening.
Educational systems were to focus on the environment as the central organizing principle. All aspects of life were covered.
Education. Pay attention.
Well,
Education.
I went to these committees at the request of some people who told me that I needed to understand what was going on, and I came back and I said, this is craziness. This is so silly. It has no chance of having any effect on our society. Well, I was wrong.
He was wrong.
The United States government's support for Sustainable Development, Agenda 21, is very clear. In 1992, while the Rio Conference was going on, George Bush, then president, was there where he executed the Agenda 21 protocols on behalf of the United States.
Chaps my ass.
In Washington, D.C. Within a year, Bill Clinton, by executive order, no congressional review, established the President's Council for Sustainable Development. In Santa Cruz, we've got a 2-lane freeway system. We need 4, but what we're getting is hundreds of millions of dollars of federal money to take a dilapidated rail line that Southern Pacific wants to put in the hands of somebody else so that a commuter line can be built along the railroad track. That'll be followed by 14-story buildings where people will live and stack them and pack them units, where developers or so-called sustainable developers will build these high rises with federal dollars. In fact, Santa Cruz has received a $300 million federal grant to build the first 3,000 of these stack them and pack them units. The County Board of Supervisors has said, if you are a sustainable developer, you're immune from any construction defect liability. It's a partnership between selected developers building this new world order and the government.
Did you hear that?
American taxpayer dollars.
Selected developers.
This is a map.
Listen.
Of the Wildlands Project. To explain the map, the red are areas that are to be off limits to human beings. No resource development, no human activity. If you live there, you won't.
You won't.
The yellow areas are the areas for major control of all human activity. If you live there, you won't.
You won't. How many people can even live in the United States if that's how small it is?
Are the smart growth zones. That's where human beings are to be stacked and packed.
Black zones.
In small living units.
Stacked and
along
stacked.
rail tracks.
Sounds like China.
Smart Growth Program ultimately has jobs assigned and children cared for by the state.
If you actually look at it, they're actually doing it in Winchester, in the UK right now.
Last. The answer to that is that you steal a generation of children and you indoctrinate them so that they accept these ideas and they become global citizens in the coming global village.
And how?
UNESCO came out and declared 2005 to 2015 the decade of education for sustainable development. But they go on to say that it will encompass the 40 chapters of Agenda 21. That is your federal national curriculum. The entire purpose of second grade social studies is to transfer loyalty from the family to the government and teach them about sustainable
economic consumption. Students construct their own understandings of reality and realize that objective reality is not knowable.
Stop the
So
video
why
and
bother?
read that.
The truth is, the truth, which keep men free, is being suppressed in order to prop up the attitude training agenda.
That too.
And it moves on. This is our new math called connected mathematics. Standard 3 tells us that students learn that mathematics is man-made, that it is arbitrary, and good solutions are arrived at by consensus. Most of us assume 2 plus 2 is always going to equal 4. You're wrong. We might reach a new consensus. How well does it work? Well, they tell you in the teacher's guide in the back, it tells us that because the curriculum doesn't emphasize arithmetic computations done by hand, some students may not do as well on tests assessing computational skills. We believe such a trade-off in the favor of CMP is very much to the student's advantage in the world of work.
No student left behind.
Our children
Clinton.
are mathematically illiterate on purpose. How do I know on purpose? Why isn't this just a basic bad idea? Because the Sustainable Development Plan tells us so. Generally, more highly educated people who have higher incomes consume more resources than
Who?
poorly educated people who tend to have lower incomes. In this case, more education increases the threat to sustainability.
Come on, what?
You're the problem.
If you're smart, you're the problem.
I owe you an apology.
Oops.
I did not believe for the longest time it was a deliberate dumbing down. I thought the dumbing down was a natural consequence of a bad idea. Folks, it's deliberate.
What?
It's deliberate.
Damn.
The globalist goal is the orchestration of a planned fall of American principles, values, and lifestyles. The effect on the average American will be devastating. With modernizing technology, the ordinary person will live without independence, privacy, or substantive rights.
Another press conference that I attended was the ICLEI group, the International Committee for Local Environmental Initiatives, that helps in the implementation of Agenda 21 in all of our local communities. And one of the speakers was a Harvey Rubin, who happens to be the vice chair of ICLEI. And I asked him about the correlative rights that Americans derive from the United States Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And that, of course, is your individual liberties, your private property, your
Pay attention.
freedom of speech. Asked about it clashing with Agenda 21. And you know what his response was? Individual rights must take a back seat to the collective.
You must take a back seat to the collective.
Let's go ahead. It's not what we know that 2 and 2 equals 4, but because the collective believes it's 5, we now have to change our minds to the collective. Well, okay. First off, I want to say, Liberal Bias 100, thank you very much for that video. Thank you for what you brought forward. I learned so much from that video. It's so profound in my being now. I ask everybody that's heard this, like and subscribe this guy, these people. They will wake you up to a lot of truths that you need to pay for, that you need to pay attention to. Now, it mentioned in there famines, I believe it was, Jeff?
Famines and in different cities. And if you don't comply.
Right. Well, okay. Isn't famines mentioned in the Bible? We've already gone through some stuff like that. Okay. Well, what is this whole understanding of what we're fixing to mention now? Okay. Because, all right, we've already heard that there's going to be famines, and now we know how they're going to do it. And now we're going to talk about famines in the past. And they said man-made and political agendas.
That's what they said.
We've proven the political agenda.
Yep.
Now we're going to show how famines are actually man-made.
And it's you're repeating history again, just one time after another over another. It's just so let's get into this. This is getting deep here.
And in that, hold on. Just remember, we are not looking for any agenda whatsoever. We're just trying to find the truth. And in the messages, comments on somebody's video, they wrote in Holodomor, HOLODOMOR. This is Holodomor. Holodomor is about Ukrainian history. Go figure. Holodomor is a man-made famine that convulsed the Soviet Republic of Ukraine in 1932 and 1933, peaking in late spring of 33. It was a part of a broader Soviet famine, 1931 to 34, that also caused mass starvation in the grain-growing regions of the Soviet Russia and Kazakhstan. The Ukrainian famine, however, was made deadlier by a series of political decrees and decisions that were aimed mostly or only at Ukraine. In acknowledgement of this scale, the famine of 32 to 33 is often called the Holodomor, a term that derived from the Ukrainian words for hunger, holod, and extermination, more. Now, the cause of this famine, as it lists here, the origin of the famine lay in the decision, here we go, the decision of the Soviet leader Joseph Stalin to collectivize agriculture in 1929. Teams of Communist Party's agitators forced peasants to relinquish their land, personal property, did we just hear that in Agenda 21? And sometimes housing to collective farms. And they deported so-called kulaks, wealthy or peasants, as well as any peasant who resisted collectivization altogether. Collectivization led to a drop in production, the disorganization of the rural economy, and food shortages. It also sparked a series of peasant rebellions, including armed uprisings in parts of Ukraine. Scan down.
What's happening here in America?
Yeah, scan down.
Same thing. But Stalin in Ukraine, that's that whole Russian.
Okay. The result of Stalin's campaign was a catastrophe. In spring of 33, death rates in Ukraine spiked. Between 31 and 34, at least 5 million people perished of hunger across the USSR. Among them, according to the study conducted by a team of Ukrainian demographers, were at least 3.9 million Ukrainians. Police archives contain multiple descriptions of instances of cannibalism, as well as lawlessness, theft, and lynching. Mass graves were dug across the countryside, and hunger also affected the urban populations. Though many were able to survive on thanks to ration cards, still, the Ukrainians' largest cities, corpses could be seen in the street. Now, is this the only one we have to worry about? Is this the only thing that poses a threat to us? Well, how about what China has done? Next video. The Great Chinese Famine happened in 1959 to 1961, and it was characterized by widespread famine as 3 years of the Great Famine, a period between 59 and 61. Some scholars have also included the years 58 to 62. It is widely regarded as the deadliest famine and one of the greatest man-made disasters in human history, with an estimated death toll due to starvation in the ranges of tens of millions.
But why do you keep hearing man-made? But on social media, it's a war and also climate change that's causing this.
Good question. Scan down and you'll see the cause of this. Okay, keep going all the way down to where it says causes of the famine. The Great Chinese Famine was caused by a combination of radical agricultural policies, social pressure, economic mismanagement, and natural disasters such as droughts and floods in farming regions.
Oh, wow.
So,
there you go.
Sounds like famines are something that we're actually maybe looking at. We got Ukraine right now and Russia. That whole situation could be causing, 25% of the wheat population or production of the world gone because of a war. Okay, well, let's just see what Biden's doing about this. Let's see if Biden's bringing forth any kind of info. Oh, wait, here he is again. Fact sheet. President Biden and G7 leaders announced further efforts to counter Putin's attack on food security. President Biden and the G7 leaders will announce that they will contribute, listen, ladies and gentlemen, contribute over $4.5 billion to address global food security, over half of which will come from the United States. President Biden will announce $2.76 billion in additional U.S. government funding commitments to help protect the world's most vulnerable populations and mitigate the impacts of Russia's unprovoked and unjustified war in Ukraine on growing food insecurity and malnutrition. Now, word usage is really important. Wouldn't you say, Jeff? The way they use words is quite
absolutely important. They're always doing wordplay around here. Yeah, word magic for sure.
These new investments will support efforts in over 47 countries and regional or organizations to support regional plans to address increasing needs. Now, if somebody makes an investment, they're looking for...
I want a return. I want a return. I'm sorry.
So if these G7 leaders and President Biden are going to give this money away, are they going to get the return or are we?
That's a good question.
Just questioning. Now, if you go down into this understanding right here, okay, with the whole world being affected, will continue to be affected by Russia's actions, the most immediate needs will present in the Horn of Africa. It experienced a record-setting fourth straight season of drought and may lead to famine. As many as 20 million people will face the threat of starvation by the end of the year.
Which is man-made.
The prolonged drought is also having dire nutrition impacts, putting children at severe risk of malnutrition. So, in this article, you can go read this article. There's so much information in here that you need to read for yourself. But then we go in and I asked Wikipedia, okay, where's this
money running to?
Where's the money running to, and where's it needed?
Your hard-paying, tax-paying
dollars.
Where's
it needed the most? Okay, West Africa. If we look at, there's a bunch of numbers in here. You could go and find a ton of numbers, but we looked at West Africa. Save the Children warned that the food crisis in West Africa could affect 27 million people, especially those people in these areas. But you look down here in Yemen, 17.4 million people do not have enough food, and malnutrition levels in Yemen are among the highest in the world. You go down here to Afghanistan in October of 2021. The UN stated that more than half of Afghanistan's 39 million people faced an acute food shortage. So, is it real? Okay, well, how would that lead us to going to America? We're looking at the United States now because off in the world we see there's all kinds of shortages, but Time magazine put out an article stating that they're trying to wipe us off the map. Small American farmers are nearing extinction. Now, you can go through this article, and there's so many things in there, but, okay, well, who's putting them and making them become extinct? So, let's see. This might be one where you see all these houses in the article from the Gap report. Brings in America's disappearing farm and range land. Well, what do you see making it disappear? And what's said in these words are pretty substantial. U.S. agricultural land in some of the world's most productive and expensive in the world. More than 31 million acres of U.S. agricultural land has been irrevocably, look that up, it says can't return, lost to urban expansion since 1982, and an additional 175 acres of farmland or land and ranch land are lost every hour.
Oy.
175 acres an hour are lost. And that's what? To make up way for housing and other industry. The land that is being lost is some of the most productive agricultural land in the country. It has the right combination of microclimates, growing seasons, and water availability to allow intensive cultivation with minimal environmental impact. I don't know if I want to keep going, but here we go. Urban and suburban expansion has also reduced the amount of agricultural land for sale and contributing to high land prices. This compounded with the fact that the land is usually kept within families. Between 2014 and 91.5 million acres of farm and range land will transfer ownership, but only 21 million of those acres will be available to the open market. Now, who might be buying this open market, you want?
Well, let's just find out who's the top 10 at least, or the top 2, shall we?
Here we go.
The top 10 largest farm owners in the United States is, in 2023, is Bill Gates, owning 242,000 acres of farmlands in 18 different states, the 4th richest person in the world. And then you got Ted Turner over here, owning property Nebraska, Kansas, Minnesota, Montana, South Dakota, New Mexico, and as well as
Argentina.
Wow, what's going on down there, man? You know, so this really just keeps going and going and going for the top 10. But, you know, Bill Gates, what's going on with Bill Gates? I don't know.
Well, are they the only people buying land?
No, they're not.
Who else is buying land?
Oh, well, I would totally say it would be
foreigners.
China is buying up.
China or just foreigners? Because here we have an article.
Foreigners is a lot. Yeah, a lot of foreigners. China is really big.
Well, China is one. We're going to prove that in just a second. But foreign purchase of U.S. agricultural land, facts, figures, and an assessment of real threats. This is something to pay attention to. Please come and read this article. Land grabbing is when a government, a company, or an other entity purchases large swatches of land in another country. That can affect local land rights and agricultural production. Sometimes putting local food security at risk. While such purchases in low and middle income countries have been covered extensively, they also happen here in the United States. Foreign ownership of U.S. agricultural land doubled from 2009 to 19, according to the USDA. Policymakers have become increasingly concerned about foreign control of the U.S. food supply.
I wonder why.
Okay, well, it's Politico. Here you go, Jeff. Politico. I don't even know how to explain this. Here we go. The debate over farm ownership comes amid broader efforts by Congress and the Biden administration to curb the nation's economic reliance on China, especially in key industries like food, semiconductors, and minerals deemed crucial to the supply chain. Very important, that supply chain. How do you get things from one point to another? Your chain has to be intact. The call for tighter limits on who owns America's farms has come from a wide range of political leaders, from former Vice President Mike Pence to Senator Elizabeth Warren, after gaining momentum, ceding the farm states. So if you read this article, you'll find the current trend in the U.S. is leading us toward the creation of a Chinese-owned agricultural land monopoly, says Republican Dan Newhouse. He warned during a recent House Appropriations Committee. The Communist Party has actively supported investments in foreign agricultural as part of its
a One Belt, One Road initiative.
An economic development plan. If you read this, Grace Meng she said that if the amendment was about national security, buyers from other countries should also face similar restrictions. So we have people out there buying our property. They're out there. It's not just China. I can prove you that China's doing it, but it's not just China.
But China's buying property right next to military bases.
Well,
right next to silos, warhead silos. That's all over the news right now.
And this is okay. That I mean, I know I've seen people buy land. I've bought land myself, and when you do, you got to go through a ringer of problems. I mean, you got attorneys have to do this and do this. I would think that somebody buying land, especially a foreign entity buying land, would be held over by the government,
especially right next to a military base, right?
Now we're passing a bunch of conspiracy off.
Yeah, conspiracy
and we're throwing
realists.
This and that and this and that. And somebody a couple of years back passed off a conspiracy that it's kind of interesting. Next slide. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Yeah, her. This one. So,
the Rolling Stones.
What else is happening in the United States that maybe we should pay attention to? Because it's real. It is real. We've already heard that Biden said it's real. Well, how real is it? Again, here we go with something else that's affecting our food supply. Marjorie Taylor Greene's latest conspiracy theory is that the left is torching food facilities. There's a new Jewish space laser, quotation mark.
Ooh, no way, freaking laser, eh?
But conspiracy theorists are circling around the idea that Democrats are trying to cause a food shortage by setting fire to processing plants. Now, we aren't going to get into this story because the Rolling Stone wants us to subscribe to it, and we're just using the headline to promote the next couple of pages.
Well, I've always wanted to be on the cover of the Rolling Stones, man. But
so
Margie did.
We're going to look at the history of food processing plants, and we find that she's talking about 25 mysterious fires at food processing plants across the United States. And here we go. End of days food shortage. So in the Bible, it says this: I, on my part, have given you cleanliness of teeth in all your towns, and lack of food in all your settlements. Yet you did not turn back to me, declares Hashem. Amos 4:6, the Israeli Bible TM. The more food processing plants burn down, the prophecy of the pre-messianic food shortages loom more imminent. Though labeled a conspiracy theory, the facts remain undeniable. Prices are rising as supply chain problems persist and food becomes dear. Now, they want us to believe that there's no food shortage. Oh, it's not real. But then Biden says it's real. But then they come back and they put this out. Okay? There are fires happening in the United States. They are happening to food plants. But then we get this: unfunded claims about frequency and causes of food plants. Jeff?
Yeah, they say it's not, but, here it is, like, contradict yourself, eventually you put 2 and 2 together,
Well, 2 and 2 equals 5, right? Well, let's see how much.
Yeah, George Orwell life,
Okay, well, if 2 and 2 equals 5, then the consensus would be that this is what we would follow. Because, okay, the unclaimed about frequency and causes of food plants. But watch. Data on the number of fires at food processing plants in 2022 does not signal anything out of the ordinary, according to the National Fire Protection Association. Despite no evidence of foul play, unfounded rumors from conservative pundits suggest a rash of mysterious fires may be a part of a plan to disrupt the food supply. There's been no significant increase in fires at food production facilities so far in 2022, according to the National Fire Protection Agency. But the fact hasn't stopped rumors from swirling online claiming that there's been suspicious increase and is suggesting that there may be a plan to disrupt the food supply. Data on fire incidents doesn't support the claim. There have been approximately 20 fires in U.S. processing facilities in the first 4 months of 2022, which is not extreme at all and does not signal anything out of the ordinary, according to Susan McKelvey told us. So the understanding that there's no issue with food or fires is okay. A Gateway pundit previously reported at least 18 major fires have erupted at food industry facilities and plants over the past 6 months. 18. All of these fires have been officially listed as accidental or inclusive. Now, I'm not trying to prove that we're not trying to prove that the fires are by any means purposeful, other than the fact that, okay, they are listed and they are manufacturing plants that were damaged from 2021, 2022, under the Biden administration. Okay, well, if there are, as they say, no reason, as they say, it's not expected to see fires of this kind, it's not unexpected to see fires, according to Bridget Messerschmidt.
Yeah.
Fires are not a rare occurrence. We've had 490,000 structure fires, not food plant fires, but structure fires. Okay, in the United States.
We clarify that, yeah, right. For sure.
So because she's speaking her truth, but she's not linking her truth to, because she goes down.
She's beating around the bush is what she's doing.
Right. She's trying to say last month rumors began to circulate on social media that a string of fires and other destructive incidents, including a plane crash at food processing plants in the United States, appeared suspicious, despite no law enforcement officials saying that it was the case. Conspiracy theorists implied the blazes were connected in some way, and even that the federal government could have something to have to do with them. Okay, we're not trying to prove that. We're simply trying to prove that there were more than a couple of fires, and this is not something that is irregular, or that is not something that's regular. If you look at what's highlighted before you, we went and found industry fires. It's called the list
on the Wikipedia
of industrial disasters according to Wikipedia. You scan down here and you go to food industry. According to Wikipedia, in January 2021, there's only one listed. That's according to Wikipedia. No,
where 6 people were killed.
Right, but there in 2017, they don't have anything listed from 2017 to 2021. That's 4 years of missing information. Okay, you come over here to factories, manufacturing industry, not food, and you come over here and you look at, you don't see anything for 2021. Nothing for 2020, nothing 2021, nothing 2022.
They're blocking it out.
Maybe Wikipedia, and if you look all through the page, they don't have anything in there. Maybe this is just new information, or maybe not.
They haven't re-updated.
Okay?
Because just give them the credit.
Because, see, now it comes down to what the heck.
This is going to get really interesting now.
Because they say there's nothing happening, but the FBI warns of attacks. That word right there. attacks on food plants after a rash of mysterious fires. Oh, okay, but wait a minute. Fact check. Food processing plant fires in 2022 are not part of a conspiracy to trigger U.S. food shortages. This is from Reuters.
Are you sure? Well, what did Biden just say? It's going to get real, right?
It is real.
It's going to get
He
real.
said it is real.
It is real.
Okay, so now we're going to go back over here to the FBI again. Warns of cyber attacks on U.S. food plants after a dozen hit by mysterious fires. Really? The Federal Bureau of Investigation Cyber Division issued a statement last week warning of potential ransomware attacks against the agricultural industry as more than a dozen food processing plants across the United States suffer damage from mysterious fires.
Are you hearing this, or is there just a bunch of crickets out there?
Cyber actors may perceive agricultural cooperatives as lucrative targets with a willingness to pay due to the time-sensitive role they play in agricultural production, the FBI notice warned. A significant disruption of grain production could impact the entire food chain, since grain is not only consumed by humans, but also used for animal feed, it added. In addition, a significant disruption of grain and corn production could impact commodities trading and stocks. There goes the dollars down the drain. An attack like that disrupts processing at a protein or dairy facility can quickly result in spoiled products and have cascading effects down to farm levels as animals cannot be processed. So, what do you think?
I think it's all, done from Agenda 21 that we talked about earlier. They talked about that, and golf courses and all that stuff. It'll be okay,
So we went to go find what's normal.
This is all getting deep.
What is normal? They say this is normal. They say there's nothing out of the ordinary. On this page, it tells you, this is on My Patriot Supply page, as of 2000 to 2004, the average fires per year were 5, with 4 of them being major. Okay, here you have, if you'll scan down, Jeff, you'll have a list of food processing plants that have been on, that were in 2020. This is the only list we can find. And this list is, if you look, from February of 2020, all the way down to, I think it's August, keep going down, there's like 9 of them. And out of all this information, out of these 9 that are listed, there it is, out of all these that are listed, out of these 9, 7 of them are terrible. Okay, they're bad. But if you go to the next slide, Jeff, it shows you that, okay, now that was 9. That's normal. Anywhere from 5 to 10 was normal. Well, then you got the Gateway Pundit put out a list, and here's a list. And if you look at these, from right here to right here, you have 10. That is, out of 10, that is for 2021. And out of those 10, 9 of them are extreme fires. 3 alarm fires, fire destroyed 75,000 acres, all supreme fires. But then you start looking at all these other ones, and then you have a fertilizer plant. If you look at number 13, you have a fertilizer plant of 600 tons. Do we need fertilizer for agriculture? Oh, absolutely. Well, then you have a massive fire swept, and then there's so many in here to name. I made a list of all the ones that are on here. You guys will see, number 13. Yeah, I brought number 13. Okay, number 57. Here you go. Listen to number 57. On here, Taylor Farms processing plant burns down Salinas. Okay? Then you go, burns down in Salinas. Here, 55. plane crashes into Gem State Processing, Idaho Potato. Then you go down to 60, what is it? 64. A small plane crashes in the lot of the General Mills plant in Covington, Georgia. Okay.
Planes just falling from the sky, boss.
Well, then you have some other strange things. Now, imagine, if you will, if you see on here, you'll look, and there's like this guy, 5,011,700 chickens destroyed.
Poor guy. Poor guy.
And you look down this list, and there's several million, 380,000, 2 million. There's so many, 1.5 million. 5 million honeybees are dead after a flight carrying the pollinator insects from California to Alaska got diverted into Georgia. Well, that's a very, very necessary. We didn't need that to happen, and it did. And that is a very bad thing.
But as you look at all these turkeys and chickens killed, what's it say on how many chickens and chickens and everything that do we have, growing in the United States?
Well, as the amount of chickens that we have, the number of chickens in the United States, as far as that goes, as of 2020, the available data indicates that there's an estimated 518.3 million chickens in the United States, given the global trend of rising chicken productions, and this number may increase in 2021 and years to come. Okay. Well, if you go back to the understanding of what we had a minute ago, is we had millions of chickens and turkeys and all of this being killed. So we're going to just pick out one person, this guy right here. He picks out chickens, or he goes on his chicken farm. He has 2 million chickens that are destroyed at Egg Farm in Minnesota. Now, he goes out and he finds one chicken. One chicken.
All it takes is one.
Is sick. And what are the treatment options? If one chicken gets sick, it's right here. There is no treatment. Once bird flu is identified as active, the entire flock must be killed. So one chicken can cause 2 million chickens.
Or plus, that was one was 5 million.
Oh, there's so many in there. It's scary. Okay, but remember the number of chickens that's created. Okay, now we have some facts for you from the CDC about how many chickens did the bird flu kill last year.
Oh, we're digging deeper for you, relatives.
Now we're looking at this report right here. Poultry affected, 57,832,144. That's as of 110. Now that's not
for a whole year from 2020 to
2022 to 2023.
Exactly.
Right. Now, if you look up here, it says that on March 7th, that the bird flu poses low risk to public on March 7th. But on April 28th, same year, U.S. case of human avian influenza reported. Then on May 5th, you have the U.S. case of human avian virus reported to the CDC, and they affirm it. And then U.S. approaches record number of avian outbreaks in November. Outbreaks and record number.
And they also say that not all of them are reported, so you should actually times that by 20.
Right.
That's the science of the math of everything.
Earlier we heard the FBI mention the word attack, Jeff.
Attack.
I
still am waiting for my investment. Sorry.
So
attack.
The FBI has made warnings. We see videos already of that. But okay. Now,
Newsweek. Oh Lord.
What's that headline read?
Physical attacks on powers, substations in multiple states reported. Well, we've all known this. We hear this right now on social media,
right.
but they left the food thing alone, and then they're just touching on this right now. But we're bringing it all to you right now, relatives.
we understand that if you take the substations down,
you take down the food grid.
Not just the food grid, all grid. You
All
take down
grid.
the power grid.
You take down all grid.
Now imagine there have been physical attacks on power substations in multiple states in recent months, according to the report. About 35,000 people in North Carolina, and this is a big topic in North Carolina, in Moore County, remain without power on Wednesday. Now, this article was written, let's see, when was it written? It was written as 7/12/2022. So December 7th, this article was written. So it's not very old, okay? And they're working around the clock to determine who is responsible, but are not ready to publicly identify. So maybe they have an idea of who's doing it. Power companies in Oregon and Washington have reported physical attacks on substations using hand tools, arson, firearms, and metal chains, possibly in response to an online call for attacks on critical infrastructure, the memo says in part. FBI and News Nation, that is too early to know the motive of the attacks that caused widespread outages in Moore County, but there have been similar cases in North Carolina and other states in recent months. Okay. So,
but at the same time, they're not going to tell you everything.
But wait a minute. This isn't happening. Remember, none of this is real, according to what they're saying. But okay, well here's another pundit page, the Gateway Pundit. And I'm going to hand it to these people, the Gateway Pundit.
Yes.
This map that we are looking at right here is so amazing. It is okay, Jeff. I want you to take control of this map and show the people what you found the other day.
This is going to be fun. So as you look right here in the United States, this is all of the food factories. Electrical plants, the whole 9 yards.
Everything that has been attacked, such as in Charles, Jamaica. Just click one.
I'm gonna scroll a little closer so we can get rid of some of the clustering here.
There you go.
And then
click on some of those with fire.
Okay, let's just pick out this one here in Texas.
There you go. So a fuel electric water purification plant is under attack. And let's see, it was an explosion late at night, and the cause, unknown reason. Click another one. Click the
All right, well, here we go. Here, well, let's just take a little closer look. Hold on, right down here to this rig right here.
Yeah. Steel tools, auto farm equipment, nanoplastic corporations, petrochemicals, electronics, energy, transportation, biotechnology, medical care, etc. Fire, unknown reason.
Oh, man.
Is this important to the infrastructure?
Yes, it is.
Maybe not to the complete United States, but it is to Austin, Texas. It's right there in Austin, Texas. I'd say they got a complaint. Okay, just grab another one.
I'm just going to pull this one up.
Okay. Grain silo, fire. They think a crew working might have caused the fire.
All right.
Still, grain silo caught on fire. Anywhere else? Let's see.
Pick another one.
Walmart permanently closing. Permanently closing Walmart. No workers. Lack of food in that area because you ain't got the money to buy groceries.
What's up with this fire here?
Okay. Fuel, electric, water, quasar electric plant, fertilizer explosion, unknown reason, also makes fertilizer.
Oh no! I just pulled this one off of I'm just picking.
Well, okay, let's get out of the United States and go to the world.
Yeah, you bet. Let me just back up here. Okay.
What's that?
No. We're gonna save this one for the last. That one's funny because that's exactly what they freaking get, right? Okay. Well, let's see over here in Ukraine. What happened over here in Ukraine?
And every grocery store in the area is closed.
Oh my God! In Ukraine,
there's no grocery stores in Ukraine. Wait, let's see what's happening in Europe. Something in Europe. Anything.
Right. Let's go to this black one here.
Okay. a plant, Hilton Foods, meat processing, fire. Where? In Gent, Flanders, Belgium. A fire in the middle of the night. Unknown reason.
No. Oh, my God. Say
I
what?
mean, you got to close that one out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, bro. Yeah.
So, okay. But if you go across, just move it back and forth throughout the whole world. If you could just see, minimize it down as small as you can get it. If you can see what they have put together on this map, they have created this built with Z maps. This is an amazing what they have done. The Gateway Pundit put this map together. It's an interactive map that you can go to, and you can look. You can find pretty much anything you want. Click one there. What's that? Okay, looks like flames. A grain silo, again, PG Small makes grain, meals, and oils, collapsed and closed. It collapsed for unknown reason and makes grains, meals, and oils.
And there's millions supposed to be dying over there.
And that's in South America.
In South America.
Yeah, let's see what's happening. I imagine what's going to happen here in Brazil real soon. Okay, destroyed, euthanized fish. Tons of dead washed fish washed up on shore. Tons of dead fish washed up on shore on the beach. They say due to climate change. Okay. So we can keep on going with this map, but there's the next page I want you to go to.
Hold on. I want to go to my favorite one here.
Okay.
My favorite one here. Here you go.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. So this is a cargo tanker ship, Felicity Ace, carrying 4,000 luxury cars to America, caught fire and sank. And unknown reason. So what conclusions, if any, can we draw from what we've just seen, what we've just witnessed? And understand, we're not investigators. We asked questions.
We did the research.
We asked Google, we asked Yahoo, and they led us to pages that answered our questions. What were our questions?
Which is probably questions that you have yourself, to be able to figure out the truth or not. We did the research for you, but we recommend you to go in and go dive into the research.
Do this yourself, yes.
You can look up on our video on everywhere we looked at, and indulge yourself. We found a bunch of misleading things like, oh, there's nothing, conspiracy theory. Right. But as you dig deeper, of course you're going to hide a lie, right? But if you dig deep enough, you'll find the lie, right?
Now, here's the point. In the beginning of the video, we made this statement we asked the question, is this food shortage real?
Is it real? That's a question for you. That's a question for you guys to be able to answer below to us, comment on this video, share this video, comment on someone else's video.
There you go.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Right. So we have to spread the word. And the best way to do this, if you want to get into this, the best way to get involved is to go to people who are putting this information out.
And don't go to social media. The mainstream media. Mainstream media is not going to do this.
Okay, but here's what we can gather if you get what's going on. Here's what you can gather: that mainstream media is telling you this, and mainstream media is not telling you this. Other people are bringing it forward. We searched for timelines to see if this information is normal. According to us, this is way above normal. We had, I think it was 29 fires on that list in one year. According to the normal, 5 is normal, according to 2004. So look for yourself. Go into this information. Find everything you can find. Make up your own mind, because to tell you the truth, here's where I stand. There is no conspiracy out there that's happening. It's all a figment of our imagination, because we don't know that they have Agenda 21 in their pocket. We don't understand that what they're trying to create is man-made famine. Who's doing it? It's not important. who's doing it. What's important is it's being done. Are we paying attention? Are we looking and seeing if there are other people reporting on this? There are many. Many of them have been kicked out of YouTube and Facebook because of the things they brought forward. That's not our intention. We're not here to get you to go against anything. We simply want you to take a look and make up your own mind. Is this food shortage real? Yep.
All right. Well, my beliefs here are, I recommend stocking up. Like on some food, growing you some garden, and start stocking up your seeds, and also look at My Patriot Supply for your non-perishable food up to 25 years.
Exactly.
You get you a week supply, a month supply, 3 months, a year supply. They're really reasonable, but I always look up My Patriot Supply. I really support them. And they're high nutritional foods. They're not like an MRE. They're very high quality. It's gourmet, if you ask me.
Thank you.
But I always stock up. I always prepare. Be prepared for the worst, and it's always best to have it than not need it than need it than not have it. So that's my philosophy on that. I always stock up. I always pay attention to the people out here, the lower people on the totem pole of the media. The hell with the main media. They're just going to feed you what they need you to hear. All that media is owned by 7 high rich people, and it's the same narrative, mocking the same shit over and over and over. This is not what we're here for at CPR, your lifeline, right here with my brother JR and Jeff Winsett. Peace out until next time, relatives.
It's been Plast.